Hey guys, it's Matt, welcome to SpeedTutor, and today we're going to be looking at creating and understanding how to change post-processing effects, but specifically ambient occlusion at runtime, and I'll show you how I've created this asset that is available on my Patreon for all you guys, along with over 135 different scripts and assets and projects you can't find anywhere else. And this allows you to take the drop downs, the sliders, the values within ambient occlusion or any post-processing and be able to change that at runtime, whether that's for settings menus or just be able to change that when you're doing your gameplay if you need special effects to happen. And I will be releasing tutorials exactly like this for every different effect to be able to control them in UIs, to give you various different ways that you can utilize it. And make sure to throw a like on this video and be subscribed to always be up to date to all the things that I'm making. Do remember, if you need to install the post-processing effects in Unity, you can go to Window, Package Manager, and then you can go to Unity Registry on the Packages dropdown. And if you type in post, you get the post-processing, and then you can usually install or update if you've already got them in your package. Then what you can do is create a new empty game object like this, add a new component, call that post-process volume. Then you can set it to be a global post-processing effect if that's what you would like. Set its weight to 1. You press new to create a new post-processing particular profile, and then in that profile, like the one I've got set up here, you can control all the different effects that you're going to use or want to use. And then on your main camera, you need to make sure that you have a post-process layer added. The trigger will be the main camera, and you can set the specific layer of this if you set layer to something specific. Like if we create a layer and maybe put this on water or add a new layer of post-processing, we want to set the same here, so it's just on a very specific layer. We're going to use all of these things, the sliders, the drop downs, and I'm going to show you how to use them and control them within the script. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on the project panel, choose C#, and I'm just going to call this AO tutorial. You can name this whatever you like, but we're going to use this as our script today. So as you can see, we've got various different things that we want to be able to achieve. Now on the mode, it has two drop downs, the scalable ambient obscurance and the volumetric ambient obscurance. Now I personally prefer the scalable because I feel as if it's more subtle. So first of all, we need to access the Unity engine.rendering.postprocessing to access the post-processing effects that we're going to use for that namespace, and then we're going to say using Unity engine.ui because we want to add or affect some UI effects. Then we're going to reference the post-processing volume that we're going to be able to want to use. So I'm just going to call this underscore post-process volume. Then have another private, and this is going to be the effect that we're going to want to get hold of. So we want ambient occlusion, and I will call this underscore AO. Now in a start method, what we're going to want to do is we want to reference that so we can get hold of the effects so we can use them anytime we want. So we can say underscore post-process volume equals get component in square brackets post-process volume, and that off with two brackets and a semicolon. Then again, underscore post-process volume dot profile dot try get settings, and in brackets we can say out underscore AO. Now we've got that and everything that we need to do to use the settings that we need. We're going to turn the button on and off. So we'll say a public void AO ambient on off, and I'll say bool on. And this is just going something, because we made it public, we can use it on the UI, and I'll say that if on is true, so if our toggle is on, we'll say that AO.active is equal to true. And then in any other case, if it's off, in that case, we can say that AO.active is equal to false. So we can tick off whether it's on and off because we just use .active once we've found the settings. And next, if we do want to affect the ambient mode, we can just say public void, and I'm just going to call this ambient mode, and then in brackets I'll just have integer index because we're going to select on the drop down, and then in here I'll say switch because I'm going to create a switch case to select between how many other cases that I have, and I'm just going to name this by index because the drop down has an index or a set of numbers which go from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many you want, and this allows us to easily select based on the drop down. So based on our index here, we can say that case 0, so the first case in any way, we can say AO.mode.value is equal to ambient occlusion mode dot, and then whichever one, so my default might be the scalable ambient obscurance. Then we've got semicolon, break, semicolon. That's our first case that we could possibly use. Then In our second instance, we can write case 1 with a normal colon, then underscore AO.mode.value is equal to ambient occlusion mode, as you can imagine, dot multiscale ambient occurrence, and another break. And we can use this in our dropdown, and I will show you this in later versions of the dropdown so you know how to use it. Now we've done our dropdown, we need the intensity is public void, again we want to use this on the UI, is ambient occlusion intensity, and have that float, and we can say that this is going to be our slider value that we're going to base this on. And in any case, we can say underscore AO.intensity.value is equal to the slider value. In my case, I've got a thing where I can update the text based on what the slider value is. What I need to do at the top of my variables, I'm just going to create some text elements, or for the UI sliders, just so you can see it apparent. So I will put in square brackets, serialized field, private text, and I'm just going to call this AO intensity value text. Our AO intensity value text dot text is equal to our slider value dot toString, and then in brackets, in quotes, we'll just put 0, so I'll keep it to a whole number. When we affect the slider value, it's going to affect the intensity value, as long as we set the value between, say, 0 and 4, which is the default for this type of thing. We can do radius in exactly the same way, and as you can see in Unity, thickness modifier and radius are different depending on which of the modes you use. So again, that's why I said it wouldn't be very common for you to change this at runtime, because you would have already decided which one's best, most likely for performance. So in this case, if we want to do radius, we can just grab the AO intensity, we'll paste that in, and I'm just going to call this ambient occlusion radius. Again, I can keep it as the slider value. We can say that AO.radius.value is equal to slider value. And if we had a new serialized field, private text, AO radius value text, again, we could do the same thing. We can go the AO radius value text.text is equal to slider value. So as simple as that. Now we want to do a quality style dropdown. So again, it's going to be very similar to what we did with the ambient mode. So we can copy that method. So we have an ambient mode, we have in the parameter the index, but we're going to change the name, just going to say set ambient quality, then have a switch case for the index, then we'll remove the line and we'll say that the case 0 with a colon is underscore AO dot quality dot value is equal to the ambient occlusion quality dot, and then in these cases it starts at lowest, add a semicolon, then add a break, then again we can say case 1 colon underscore AO dot quality dot value is equal to ambient occlusion quality dot, and then the next one would be low, and then we can break that off, and I'm just going to add the next ones for each of these. So now we've got 5 different cases starting at 0, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we can use any of these whenever we might want. Is we're going to do a similar thing, so we'll copy that method again and paste down below, and I'm just going to call this the set ambient color, again with the index, again with the cases that we're going to use with the switch case. Now we can say for case 0, set AO dot color dot value is equal to, and in this case is color dot black. Could create a variable which is just the color picker, which you could use to be able to create it, but this in code is the most easiest way to explain it, and again, this is exactly the way that you do it. And now the last thing that we want to create is the ambient only, and it was to create a toggle, and we know how to create a toggle like based on above. First one for turning the effect on and off, we can take ambient on and off and say ambient only, and whether that's on or off, then we can set underscore AO.ambient only dot value is equal to true, ambient only dot value is equal to false. And then I'm going to show you how to connect these up. I'm just going to add the AO tutorial to my slot here. You can see that I already have my UI elements down the side. So for the on and off toggle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my post-processing volume or wherever my script may be. Then I'm going to choose my AO tutorial and then go to the dynamic bool and just have the ambient on and off. And we know that the default value should be that most likely that is on, it's off by default. So we'll make sure that our AO is not on, just so that we have some default values. Then the intensity slider, we can make sure that we add the post-processing volume to the script, an AO tutorial, and have this as our ambient occlusion intensity. Then for the radius, we could do exactly the same thing. Select the AO tutorial and select the radius. For the quality dropdown is a little bit different, we can add the volume again. We can grab the AO tutorial and just select the quality that we're going to have. And now you can name this whatever you want. So you might need to add pluses to add more options. So I've got lowest, low, medium, high, and ultra. You can set the value on what you want it to start with. So if it was 0, you could see on my left hand side it's now lowest, set it to 1 low, to medium is default. And for the color drop down, in a similar way, you can add the method that you want, the set color, and then you can add your values. Default starts at black, and then ambient only. Again, we can choose the ambient only mode where it's on and off, and the default value is true in this case, so ambient only can start on based on whatever that is. Now what we can do is if we press play, you can see that we can make the ambient occlusion on, set the intensity so you can see it appear. We've got the radius that we can set up and down. We've got the quality which we can set the color based on what we have and set whether it's ambient on or off. Now we've got a way to be able to set it on all the different sliders and everything that you need to know in between. And do be sure to remember that if you've got any values, you need to make sure that you've got min and max values and the starting value for each of your things based on what your default values may be. Because if I have this, and you can see that my intensity goes from 0 all the way to 4. So it's never going to go anywhere higher than that if I'm using the scalable ambient obscurance. So if I'm using the intensity, it needs to have a min value of 0, max value of 4, and start at whatever your default is. You can set those in script and do whatever you want. You can get this entire project on my Patreon and you can get hold of over 135 different scripts, assets, and projects you cannot find anywhere else. Be sure to come and join me on Discord, and be sure to check out all my assets on the Unity Asset Store with bonus discounts on my website for all my patrons and everybody who's a subscriber. And thank you so much to all my patrons and all the subscribers, and a special thanks to Peter Steiner for his awesome support, and thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Cheers.